Hello and welcome back, everyone. Thanks for joining us again on week 4 of Shooting for the Grade. And we've got the usual suspects with us, Tony, Diego, and Max. Welcome, guys.
Hi.
And special guest this week. Thank you so much for joining us, Moritz. Moritz is product manager at Maxon for the Magic Bullet suite, amongst other things that he does here. And so he's all in the know about all of the questions that if you wanted to ask him about Magic Bullet and some of the formats and some of the workflows and that sort of thing. So we're delighted to have him here. Thanks, Moritz.
Happy to be here.
Cool. So I'll try and keep the intro things short, but it's just useful to know that, yes, we are recording these sessions. And if you jump over to our YouTube page, Maxon Training Team, just search for that on YouTube, then you'll see all the recordings for the previous sessions. And in fact, on those recordings, then if I just jump into last week's one, I just wanted to show you this, that all the links that we talk about are typically added here. So we add those things like where to download the clips and also links to the Canon information and also Sigma information that we shared on previous weeks, because this is week 4. So if you've missed any of the other previous weeks, please jump on and watch those recordings. And by the way, there's also a PDF document that's inside the webinar software. It's called Shooting for the Grade Links, and this is what it looks like, and it's got all those links again in there too. And if you want a reminder of those links, you can always contact us at training@maxon.net and we'll send them to you again. So just want to make sure that you have access to them easily. And just whilst we're thinking about this, if you do look at the recordings, there are also lots of interesting things about some of the sessions that we've already run. So for example, back in November, we run a great series of sessions that covered things like ACES workflows. So if you go into the Maxon Training Team and type in ACES, then we've already got a whole, I think it's 15 minutes or so that Diego ran us through what the ACES workflows were like. So that's a really useful piece of information. And you can ask us as well, and we'll delve out other links as we go on this session today. Just wanted to remind you that lots of these things are in there already. Also, this is the last session we're running in February for demystifying post-production on grading, but we are back next month. Of course, we're new month, new topic. We have got a whole load of creative collaboration in Universe, which I think you also look after Universe, don't you, Moritz? Yes, so this is good timing. And over 5 Mondays inside March, we're going to be looking at all sorts of things that you can do with the Universe and workflows in collaboration with other departments and other hosts, and also getting interesting results for using the tools in a way that they weren't specifically designed for. And we're going to be joined by Harry Frank, who heads up development of Universe tools creatively and technically, and he's going to be sharing with us his unique insight into those things. And because we thought this would be a nice follow-on for the editing-based and grading-based sessions we've been running this month, so we're going to carry on that theme, but it also overlaps into motion graphics and designing plates and lower thirds and all those sorts of things. So we'd lovely for you to join us on those. That'd be fantastic. And one other quick thing, if you want to test out your knowledge on any of the things that we're talking about with Magic Bullet or Universe, on the Red Giant site, we have the ability for you to run through a 1-hour free assessment test, if you like, or quiz about each of the Magic Bullet and Trapcode and Universe and VFX suites. So we'll add that link as well to all the usual places, but that's just a nice way of just investigating and finding out some of the other things that the tools do, because there are more just within the Universe and Magic Bullet tools. There's more than 100 plugins available. So that's not counting all the other suites as well. So there's loads of things to get through. And talking of loads of things to get through, one last thing is, yes, please feel free to collect a free t-shirt from us. And those of you who have watched these sessions before know that we like to do what we actually used to do in real life, which is like if we ran a session either at a show or actually on a road show as well, we'd like to give away free t-shirts. So have a look, check this out. Look, new additions in the t-shirts. You too can be the bearer of a fancy Red Giant t-shirt. So let us know. These aren't $20 or $25. If you put in the keyword, which is demystifying, then you get this t-shirt for free, and all you have to do is pay for the shipping on it. And so one each, please. because we need to share them out as widely as we can. But there we go, fantastic. Cool. So this week we are running on our sessions. We are looking at the shooting for the grade in terms of the workflow. We've looked at the camera side of it and also the lens side of it. So we wanted to dive in a bit more into the workflow of how you would actually put together a grade. And we're going to simulate that in some respects by starting off with decisions that are made on the editorial timeline and then shared with the colorist, and then how you might jump to and fro. And we've had a lot of requests over the last couple of weeks of, can you show us something from scratch? Can you build this up over time? And we've been teasing at it, and we showed a few little bits as we go along, but that's why we wanted to dedicate this week to that particular workflow. And as well as, at the same time, then answering questions. If you've got side questions about what we're doing, please jump in on the questions area, and we're more than delighted to be able to do that for you. And so also thank you to our regulars who always jump in and say that all the tech is working. Thanks Jay and Kent for doing this session, and greetings to Argentina as well. So Nahuil, forgive me for completely mispronouncing your name. that's my job on these things, as you all know by now. Cool. So, right, who are we starting off with? I sense that we're starting off with you, Tony, because we're going to echo your shooting. And by the way, those links that we put together also include all the files that Tony has very generously shared, that you can download the footage and try some of these things out as well. So I'm going to hand over to you, Tony, to kind of kick this off and make you a presenter. Here we go. Make you presenter. Who else? So,
all right.
There's your screen.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Oh yes.
All right, great. All right, so I'm going to talk about something that's kind of I'm using looks in a different way, basically to convey down the line to Diego, the colorist, how I see things coming together. They're not going to be perfect, but they're going to literally be either from templates, or B, I might just drag a few things and make them look in a certain way. Maybe I want to highlight, a coffee cup, or maybe I want to highlight, the background or something like that. But I'm going to build a couple of ideas, and then I'm putting all of these ideas. Notice I'm on the edit page in Resolve, so I'm not doing this on the color page. Here's one thing I do want to put out there is that DaVinci Resolve, came from being a color app that cost a lot of money to a free app that is an entire post-production suite, from finishing to editing to prepping to everything. So I'm going to, take this time to show you in the editing page as an effect. That's how you would add looks, magic bullet looks, as an effect, not as a color node. It can be either or. So with that said, let me actually disable these two tracks, and I'm just going to make a brand new track up here. And I'm going to show you, go in the effects library here, go to my toolbox, and actually let me just type it in, adjustment clip. Here it is. Adjustment clip is a lot like an adjustment layer. So here's an adjustment clip, and typically I'm just going to make this, all the way as big as my whole timeline here, right? And what you can actually do is just go up and down your timeline, right? And if you wanted a whole group of clips to look very similar, you can clip it off over 3 clips, or you can go clip to clip and using the shortcut Command, or if you're on a Mac, Command B, or if you're on a PC, Control B, and just go clip to clip. And then, depending on, how many clips you have in here, but you can do this with general sections. So for instance, here I have a general section, which is the same cuts, just in reverse. So this is the close-up, and it ends, and the dripping part ends in the wide shot. And then this is the wide shot, and then the coffee stops dripping in the close-up. But for this, I'll just clip it off in that range. So now this is one look for that whole range of clips. So what I'm basically just showing is that you can take these and kind of grade just to each clip, and you can do it passively. So, again, just go down your line here and just go clip to clip. So the benefit is when you're doing any of this, it's not an effect that's baked in. So if a colorist also is seeing this, they don't have to go through and turn off all the effects. They can literally just disable this whole track. So, or you can just hit the D key and D for disable. So if I go here right now, I made another whole separate track just to show you, but really on this track here is where I'd be doing it. So it's on V5 and V6, and if I hit D, now I've disabled that. So now I don't have to actually go in here, and typically what you would do is select all your tracks, select all your clips, right click, and then you would change and do, what is that? Remove effects on all of these. So you don't have to do that if they're just passively on adjustment clips. Same thing as adjustment layers inside of Adobe Premiere. So doing this is a passive way of doing it. One other great thing about this, let me just flash forward to the color page, is because what the colorist will see is they'll see your shot, right? If you look here, they'll see your shot. Then they'll see what it actually is on the adjustment clip. So they'll be side by side already. So you'll see clip, adjustment clip, right? On each one, clip, adjustment clip, clip, adjustment clip. So that's what they see on the color page. So again, when you're doing this in this passive kind of way, you can just disable those tracks. And then again, if you go in here, you can edit your looks, build your looks out, and then basically when you ship them over to the colorist, either by going to, let me turn off my effects library, I go to media pool, and I wanted to share this, I would export. If you're in the newer versions of DaVinci Resolve, you'll see you have the option for exporting a DRT, DaVinci Resolve timeline, and that's on version 16 and above. So if you go here, export DRT, and then you can export your DaVinci Resolve timeline file. And basically, it's not the same as if you exported a project file where you actually have to go into the project manager and then drag it in here or import it in here. It'll give you an error because it's not the same. You can literally have any project open as long as you have the media on your side. You're literally just sharing a timeline. So it's very convenient and very easy to ship files back and forth by just exporting just that timeline file. So, I tried a couple of looks. Are they amazing? No, but they're just kind of giving the idea of what I want the flavor and what I want the spice in this shot to be. So, I went in here, I tried this, and then I said, maybe I want it to look a little bit green. I'm just trying these ideas out. All right, so these are just the looks effect. And I just kind of jump in here. I'll do one here. This one, let's see. And yeah, let me just pick this one here. I haven't put the looks effect necessarily on this yet. So I'll go in here.
Whilst you're doing that, Tony, quick question from Joey's asking,
Sure.
Will that exported DRT file collect all the assets, or do you have to package those manually?
Yeah, you need to have the same media. So it does not do the full media management, but just to answer that question really quick. So this is a new feature, and what's great is with the new updates, we noticed that, let's say for instance, I did want to media manage this and share all of these clips. You can select that, I'm going to select this promo timeline here and go to File, Media Management. Now there are three options in here: entire project, timelines, and then clips. If I go in here and if you're ever using RAW and you want to retain the RAW, you cannot clip off RAW and repackage a RAW file. A RAW file, if it's shot for 5 minutes, you're getting a 5-minute file. So that's an excellent question. What I would say is go to media management, make sure you're selecting on that timeline, or just make sure that timeline is checked here. And then you say copy used media, right? So copy and trim doesn't really work for raw files because it's then going to have to transcode. So copy, right? I would leave the option for relink to new files off. If you put that on, it's going to it's not damaging, but it's basically going to relink and then off link your original stuff. So if you make a new set of files, it's going to relink to the new set of files on your end. So if you're doing this to send to somebody else, I would leave relink to new files not checked. But when you do this, you do the timelines option, copy used media. It tells you how much, right? and then you put it in its own folder, it'll also export a DRT as well. So it does
That
two
we
things.
discovered yesterday, actually. That was
Yes.
something really interesting because, you know, one of the main problems was with the media management that you have to export a DRP before and then import it and then relink the files.
Or
Right
even
now,
the DRP.
yes, even DRP. Right now, we did this media management. It also like move or copy the files to another folder and export next to the files a DRT, and it's a perfect way. I mean, to move files, to move
So it does
timelines,
something,
or just what
it'll
it
do
is.
something that looks like this. So it puts them all inside of a bin, right? So you can see that it's half raw and half H265, and then it made this DRT file along with it. So I hope this answers that question. So basically, if you go into that media management option inside of Resolve, it now will kick out that file along with the actual media too. So not only does it give you the building assets, right, the bricks, it also gives you the blueprint. So just getting back into this, you know, using the adjustment layer and then kind of jumping in, you know, like I said, you can use that as a range, right? So if you want to do it over a couple of clips, you can still have that same look over a couple of clips. And again, I'm using this right now just to kind of convey my idea. So I'll go to effects and then we go to, you would typically go to your effects library. And then right now I have it saved as a favorite, but you can always save it as a favorite too. Type in looks. Once you have it installed, of course, type in looks, right? And it should be under open effects. You'll see it here, Magic Bullet Looks. Put the little star, right? Or you can right click and choose add to favorites. And now it's always gonna be living right here, so you don't have to search for it. After you put it on your adjustment layer here or adjustment clip and go to edit look, right? Give it a second here, pops up. And then from here, you can do a little bit of shopping. What I would say, it's not a bad idea to jump in and kind of just start with shopping through some of these pre-built ideas. The best part about that is when you're looking in here and you see anything that you possibly like, right? Then you can also grab from those ideas. So if I go into here, let's see something I like. It's some of these look like they're going all monochrome, but that's just because I'm working in this with this log footage here. So if I'm working here and let's see, this one's kind of bluish, right? Or even
and I want to interrupt you, Tony, here. And the reason that we talk with Tony about this workflow is because in many cases the director has an idea and he's editing. And in most of the cases for us, for the colorists, it's so difficult to get in the idea that the director wants. If we have the time, we can send reference, we can we can, or if we are not in pandemic, the client can sit next to us and start develop the thing. But when we were talking about Tony, we say, hey, maybe this looks library can be something like a really fast thing for the client, for the director, just to show an idea of how he wants, and then based on that, the colorist can think, okay, this is what he wants. This I can start doing something really new, or I can develop from the looks plugin what he wants and make the most difficult part, that is the matching. That is, I mean, is something that we have to do.
And if I may throw something in, in this new version we implemented search, so you can actually search, like if you know you want something cool, you can search for cool looks.
Yeah, the top bar here.
And that's actually one of the greatest things that I love about looks. And it's like when you have this search, you can select everything. You can select everything, and it's going to appear a tag of something that you are looking at. For example, we were looking to Tony. We were looking at Western, and it appears a funny name. So type it.
Oh yeah, Western.
Yes.
This is anything that has to do with Western mutes like crazy.
Yeah.
This is interesting.
Yeah, but the great thing is that, I mean, and we were talking about some weeks ago, it's like looks is feelings. Look is feelings. it's not technical, it's not something like it's feelings. So I actually love the library of looks because of that, because it's like it's searching for feelings, it's searching for emotions, and it's giving you like some like presets that you can use it and you can refine it, or can give you like an idea of something that you wanted.
And
Just to add to that, I think in the new release you can also search for feelings as well. So if you would type sad, Tony, I think you will get some.
How about happy? Why we got to be sad
Are
for
you
it?
Yeah,
sad?
happy.
Sad, man?
Sorry.
Want to be sad? We're stuck indoors all day.
No.
We're taking name suggestions as well. So if anyone has good suggestions, we can update those and add new keywords. So we're always happy. If you're looking for something, you think you should find something, typing in that word, and you don't find anything, please let us know.
That's awesome.
So here, happy memories. So anyway, I did want to point at one thing. Let me delete all of these. So here's another way to kind of convey your message, and you can also send these along as well. You can always make you can add stuff that you might have seen for inspiration and use, or you can just clip this off and make, now I have these that I can actually share, and these will actually live. These are my reference library. They're basically just making PNGs, and I can go in here and I'll show you where they live. So if you go to View Presets folder, right under that little wheel cog, and I go here to, where is it? Under Red Giant, and I have under Magic Bullet, LUTs, custom. Maybe I got lost in this. Simon, do you remember where these are, or Moritz? Tools, or was it just a right click here? Where these
Locations, you mean?
Yeah, the location of the reference library. I feel like I used to have it just kind of as on one of my sidebar items in the Finder, but let's see.
Well, the new presets were moved to go into the documents folder.
So somewhere that's a little bit easier.
I think in the cogwheel, exactly. In the cogwheel, you can click the drop-down arrow and View Presets folder right there.
But wouldn't they be, let's see, archive, custom, my looks. Well, I was looking for where these snapshots live. So like
that is true. That's an interesting workflow. It's the previously, I think on the previous version, they were available as part of that folder structure. But that's in Looks 5. I think they might have been moved within the program. Any insight on that, Moritz?
I have to refresh my memory as well. I'm looking right now.
Hey, you know what? Like again, last I remember is that I could find these and just grab them and send them as PNGs. But things move around and things change, and as rapidly as DaVinci Resolve changes, Looks is always changing as well. So, I think the fact that things are developing is a good thing, and it's not a big deal. If it moved to a different folder, the point is that with this, you can actually wipe back and forth like you could in Resolve. So if I found some inspiration, and it sounds funny, but people find inspiration in Instagram, and they make their major promos for television from an Instagram post filter that somebody uses. You can always add those, and just find those, put them on your desktop, and then add those in here, and then wipe back and forth. So, there's so many reasons why you can use that. But again, just going in here and just kind of working through what I like to see and what I'm thinking doesn't necessarily mean that's exactly what's going to turn into, because this image, to hold up well, the more that I add super big amounts of contrast and big amounts of saturation, they may not hold up. Number one for broadcast, and number two, what I think is not necessarily in alignment with what's color accurate. So
and you say something interesting. I mean, it's the work of the colorist in some way to accept, to improve, or to say to the client, hey, this is something different. we can take another like a starting point or something. Is our work. It's our work just not to accept and do what is 100% what they're thinking, is to give ideas, to improve, and why not to say in some cases, hey, this is color is not probably the best one in this kind of scenes.
And I will point out one thing, when you're working in Resolve, the color management situation, the fact that you have so many options, like the wide gamut, which is pretty fresh and pretty new. So if you're using looks and then you're pushing the slider, that's a different look. The color management option here is pretty new and pretty fresh. So when you're looking at this, you might have a slightly different result. What I do as a fix for right now is I peel back the intensity of that look to about 50%. So if you're looking at it, it doesn't look exactly like what you see in looks. That's because this wide gamut is pretty fresh and pretty new. So I just kind of peel back the strength on the overall look. So then that kind of matches the idea. Again, I'm doing these to convey the message to Diego, so Diego kind of gets an idea where I want to go, and then he gives me a more accurate grade. And he can also use looks in conjunction with actually grading in Resolve. He can use it for textures. He can use it to shape the light, shape the blur, all kinds of great tools that are available. So I'll show that really quick before I do hand to Diego. So in here,
Tony, quick question.
Talking about this, I got another question in from Jay, and this is a good one actually. This could you add swatches or color ranges from other applications like Adobe Capture, and could you add those to looks? And the I know the quick answer to that is not at the moment. But that's an interesting concept about taking color decisions that you've had from other programs and then bringing those into looks and kind of accelerating the process. And I know you can do that with LUTs to some extent, but just be interesting on our collective thoughts about that, how we might manage that kind of workflow.
There's a workaround though. In Looks 5, I think you can already use the new tools that released a new Looks 5, which is Color Remap and Unity. By using Color Remap, you can use the reference library as you can load the swatches in the reference library as a JPEG, and then by using Color Remap, you can just like open the reference library and just click those JPEG color. And by remap, you can live remapping your color doing that. And then also by using Unity, you can also get close to that.
Actually, that's a great workaround. Absolutely. Yeah, that's nice. So it's a way to actually get that information in and then stored in the looks file.
Yeah.
A related question Paolo's jumped in with, which is, can you import a LUT, a technical LUT, let's say log to 709 inside looks? And absolutely, yes, you can.
Yep.
And
that's colorista too. Colorista, you can do the same.
Yeah.
So
see that LUT tool that Tony's got on the screen at the moment. You can add that into the range of tools. If you wouldn't mind just dragging that up to the end of the tool chain there, Tony.
Where are we looking here? The LUT tool.
There it is. You're just on it. Just scroll past it, slightly down. It's in the color correction section.
Yep.
That's it.
And then you can pick here.
Yeah.
That's the preset, but under here, you have
so
all these.
You can load in different LUTs as well. In fact, this has got a search as well, hasn't it, Moritz?
Yeah, you can search, exactly. You can import like folders of LUTs. You see the ones that are loaded right now in here. So yeah, the LUT tool is really powerful, also because you can set the LUT gamma, so that's something pretty special.
So this is the import right here.
Yeah.
Crucial tip. We mentioned this before, but have your LUT at the end of the tool chain, because looks processes from left to right. And as we all know, that lovely phrase, grading under the LUT. Any adjustments you make need to be made before the LUT applies, because the LUT is typically the one that reduces the color range.
Hey, Tony, quick question. Your footage, what's the footage you're working with here?
So this is So it's a mixture between the C300 Mark III, which is shot in Canon RAW, and then the C70, which is a good B cam to it, which shoots in H.265, which is not so friendly to work with. So most of the time you have to transcode. But basically there's our 4K 120, which do kick up a little bit of grain depending on how far you push your ISO. But yeah, so this is C70, and then it's paired also with, here, let me jump out of this and I'll show you. So on one track here, this is the C300, and then down here is C70. So all of these clips here, the Canon RAW, and then the MP4s are the C70. So this is the RAW file here. So that's another thing too, is you can also go in and adjust your RAW profile before you even start to grade too. So if I wanted to open this up or push it a little bit further, also if my system is kind of giving me bogging me down, I can go half res debayer and then adjust even the lighting before I even work. But as shot, typically, especially if you're working with somebody, you know, and you're working with, and you know, again, as you're doing this, you can kick up a little dust, as you see. And when I mean dust, I'm talking noise. So depending on, be careful with this as you do it. This is more or less, in my opinion, I would leave the exposure settings alone, and unless you knew for a fact that you were going for something specific. But you know, like if you go in here, I can actually go and kind of bring this down a little bit, or I can pump it up. So this is at 3200. But
one
again,
thing I was going to mention in looks, you have color handling now, so you can actually choose your input color and output color. So if you set that to Canon log, it would interpret your presets much more correctly in looks.
there you go.
You probably get something that looks more what you would expect.
Let's do it. Let's show it.
Yeah. So here, I'll go here and let's go back to, I'll just do the effect. And
that's cool with the adjustment clips. You could you know, generate different adjustment clips like with the different settings for your different cameras. That'd be nice workflow too.
Yeah,
absolutely. So here, and then C-Log.
Yeah.
And then also, I guess, you know, as you're doing it, you know, you can also, let's just see, because some of these are, here's a question for you, Moritz. So like, some of these will change, but once you do the input, does it stick? Is it like a sticky setting?
It sticks in this instance of look. So if you open it, you know, it doesn't.
Is there a way?
Project.
Here's another question. Is there a way to make a look with the input setting stuck in there, like as part of that look?
Right now, it doesn't save it as presets, just because we assume that, you know, you want to like
oh, nice, and it just quit.
Use the preset on different types of cameras, so that's why it's not on there by default. So, you know.
Yeah, I think it'd be nice to be able to make a bunch of Canon looks, a bunch of Sony looks, and then have that input stick. So then that way it's not like a something that you have to change.
Yeah, that could be an option. Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah, and I will add to that, like color handle is, I mean, we have been grading logarithmic images for so many time, that grading log is boring.
Yes.
Because all you have to do always the same. That is like expand the image. If you can have like this, like, how can I say, like this automation that knows where the log is and how to delog, that saves you time. That really saves you time. And for example, I can say that this year and the last year, all I do is grading using that like color management systems, because grading log sometimes is, you do always the same. You do leave gamma gain, and if you can have this part really fast, it's really saves you a lot of time.
Yeah, And Tony might show that right now, but I was about to say the same, that Resolve is actually quite smart, right? I mean, the Resolve color management
amazing.
can detect what's your source file and so forth. So it's, that can really help in that regard.
With that, right? When you're working with that, and then you switch this to the new like wide gamut, and I'm sure I'm sure that Diego will preach about it. I'm sure Moritz will preach about it. It's pretty amazing. Choose wide gamut, and this is a lot more friendly for editors. So when you take a look at this, like look at that, it's like this beautiful like orange brown now, and that's a lot more close to lifelike versus I mean, I don't know if you know, but you know, a handful of people that I know that you know, on the editor side cannot work or edit unless they put an adjustment layer or a LUT on all the footage, and they hate editing in log. Editing in log sucks for some people.
Editing in logs is boring, and I will add editing in log is like, it can be dangerous for technical things, because I mean, if you are grading or if you are editing in log, the editor doesn't know where is underexposed, where is overexposed, and it can, I mean, if he just edit, but he can, if he delog the footage, he can be like a technical filter for that problem shots that are at the beginning.
Yeah, so you know, the idea is really, Resolve has now gotten to a point where you can actually edit with stuff that was shot in log, and you can view it and not feel like you're looking at this flat, boring image. And then also, you know, another thing, just to double down on what you said, Diego, is if you're working on this stuff, you might choose the wrong file that was overexposed or underexposed, and that was the wrong take based on the fact that you're looking at this flat file and you really can't see which one was the better one. You'll see it a little bit better when there's more color and there's more contrast. So, but yeah. So anyway, the idea from here is that I just kind of flavor it and give it the ideas of where I want to go. I want to try this, I want to try this, and maybe I go cool with one whole section and warm with another whole section. And then Diego's like, you know what? I think we go all warm, and you know, and then he'll be the one to kind of really design it. I'm just literally dropping hints. So that's the way that I'm using it, and I'm using it passively. So then, you know, I'd export the DRT, and I'll hand this over to you, Diego. And then, you know, Diego will show what it's like on the flip side of it. So when he receives it, he can see my ideas, and then he can just disable those tracks, and then he can start building the grade on that, or even wipe back and forth. So I'll send this over to you, Diego. Good.
So yeah, so before like moving to this workflow, I would love to ask you, Simon, if you can put like the small trailer we did. These are images recorded by Tony using different cameras, four cameras, actually, different codecs, RAW, H.265, and we did a really fast editing, we did a really fast grading. We are going to improve it, but this is a work of like 3 weeks of Tony recording, because this guy was like moving to the Hollywood Hills, moving to the desert, moving to everywhere. He even wants to come to Colombia to record, so probably next time.
This is with all the Canon cameras. This is with 4 Canon cameras that are fresh to the market, and the Sigma Cine lenses. And I think we even have some Sigma FP camera in there too.
Yeah, so yeah.
I'm just running through it really slowly. I'm not playing it back in real time, so you can have a view of some of these grades and shots. Just because that when we play back something on the webinar, sometimes it doesn't play back full frame rate. So I just wanted to give everyone a chance to have a quick look at this. But these are the shots that you've graded, aren't they, Diego?
Yeah, it's a basic grading. I will show you what I did. It's a really basic grading, especially because one of the things that I found is, and for example, Tony showed like a teal and orange look. And usually what I found is that everyone wants a teal and orange look. But I was thinking, hey, do you like the coffee to look teal and orange? If it's a promo.
That's not the coffee I'm drinking.
Yeah. Do you like your coffee blue?
If it's Colombian coffee, maybe.
So we did a really simple like balancing, like matching. We will definitely improve because we did it like really fast. But what we love is like the shots are great. The shots are great. The shots are beautiful. and the footage is really nice. So that was like the main thing. Okay, so I will show you my screen right now. So do you see my Resolve here?
Yes.
Okay. So first I will go to the first part, to just the video you did it. You watch it. And talking about Resolve Color Management, I start in Resolve Color Management here. This was my original setting. DaVinci White Gamut, I love it. I love like the way that it is treating like the images. So this is my starting point in most of the cases. And it's a good starting point. It's better than log. Log is
Yep,
is sometimes, yeah. So in this case, as you know, I usually like work always with node structures. It doesn't matter if I have these nodes that I'm not doing anything, as you see, but all my shot had the same node structure. And what I did in these cases, for example, let me show you here, is I create a small look. I usually like grade this with the HDR panel that I found it really nice with high dynamic range and white gamut footage. So all I did was like move the exposure to find like a good starting point. And then with the look was just to make these parts. Let me show it to you here, like the highlights a little bit more blooming or something like that to see more like this detail. That was the main look. And in many cases, for example, let me show you here. In many cases, I use, not here, these tools, the temp and the tint, that I found it really nice for when, what I found, let me show you here. This camera, especially this shot, or maybe because of the coffee, probably because of the light, is a little bit like greeny or yellow. So all I did this first node was like, okay, play a little bit with the exposure, and then with the temp and tint, balance the image. So the main workflow was that. Here I have, as you see, like different like cameras, different like codecs. Also, in some parts, I use noise reduction. For example, here, I use a noise reduction because I feel that it was like going too forward. And in some other cases, for example, here, what I found is that is something that is going to happen usually with ACEs, or in this case with DaVinci White Gamut, is that it's giving or is moving the colors. Look at this, to some other point. That is something really interesting. So what I did was use the new color warper like tool that is really fast. It's a really fast way like to, like to fix these colors. And because I'm Colombian, I know the color of the coffee. So definitely this one wasn't the color that I wanted. So that was like the main part. What I did, it was a simple grade, just balancing all the time, and all the time looking at the scopes, as we discovered in all of these sections, that the scopes is our technical eye. This is really important. And in these parts, for example, here is where I was more exaggerating. Let me, here. This is like the shot with the DaVinci White Gamut, like normal step with the input device transform. And then I made like a really like normal like sunset. And I move especially this part here all the time, the high dynamic range that I feel that is really nice. It's not high dynamic range like display, but it's high dynamic range footage. And this tool is incredible for selecting different parts, and it can be used like a starting point in the base here, or like a tool for make special look, like for example in this case, something like that. I use like them and some of the options here. Okay, so that was like the first part, like the grading normally, or like grading taking advantage of some part of the image, for example, as you notice here. So the second part that I want to show, and then we will go to Max, is like, okay, if Tony send me like this DRT, how can I handle, or what is my starting point? So for reporting a DRT in the new Resolve 17 is really easy. It's File, Import, and there you select the timeline, and you just need to select the DRT, and that's all. So it's actually a really fast way. And here I have...
Just to add one thing to that, and just to double down on that whole media management thing. If you have, we have the same project, we have the same media in the media pool. You know, you want to make sure that that person has the same media. If you're missing a shot, they have to give you that shot. Otherwise, you're literally getting the timeline. So everything will be linked if you have the same media and the naming is the same and you didn't transcode or anything. So just to double down on that part, you're literally just shipping a timeline.
Yes, that's the good thing. It's the timeline, I have the footage, so I just need to link it, and that's it. So in this case, I have, as you saw with the adjustment clip, like Tony said. And the first thing that I did in this case was like go to the color page and save one still. Okay, save one still or something what he did. And then after saving that still, what I can do is I can do two things. First, I can like start like with this look he did, or I can disable and start like normally, for example, in this case, I start normally. And then what I say is like, okay, let's import like the name of the look that Tony used. And in this case, refine it or do something with it. For example, in this case, you can select, okay, this can be the case. And here I use like this part as a look. I can name this something like look. And here, my node before can be something like base. And in this base, what I can do is go to my normal tools and in some way have something like Simon was talking about the workflow of the LUTs. So here can be with looks, can be a similar workflow, or that's what I'm thinking, or what I'm doing in this way. It's like, okay, the looks is going to give me like the detail of what I wanted, like the color of the creative intent. And the base is going to be the node where I can adjust the clip and I can make it like, okay, make it brighter. Because, I mean, usually you are working with a panel, and here I'm working with a mini panel. So the base can be just that part, and the look can be like the flavor or something.
Yeah.
So based on that, I also like did a really fast test, like using this, and I was thinking, okay, let's think. Looks like, I mean, let's make something from the 50s, from the Western. So as you notice, here I have my node structure, the same one that you saw before, and I have base, pop, here I have the looks, the vignette, and the trim. And the looks is giving me, look, it's giving me like the taste of the image. And I use the base, like, oops, it crashed. I use like the base like to move it. But it's, I mean, it's because sometimes it's really difficult like to find the look. And what I found is like the looks like plugin is giving you a really fast and easy way like to find what you wanted. It doesn't, in this case, I don't see like the final step. I'm looking like this node that is giving you like this creative part, and you can adjust it. Let me just move really fast.
Sorry, it's an interesting side comment to this is we were having some internal discussions last week about a popular topic which we always get asked is, why do people buy looks if they've got Resolve? And one of the key reasons is the ease of use and the ability to stay creative and to use the tools together. Really, that's when it was invented almost 15 years ago now. That was the the common thread, the being able to have more time to iterate and think creatively. And then it's kind of evolved out to something which allows you to do that across different hosts, and as Tony was showing, to be able to share your ideas and pick them up over time. So it's an interesting concept that you can still use it in a professional workflow, especially now that it's got the wider color handling as well, which it kind of makes it really irresistible when it's a block in your whole recipe here.
It also can be textures and stuff that you can generate light. You can generate all these things that you can't do necessarily in Resolve. So
yeah, and for example, let me just show you really fast what I did here. It was like, first I applied the look, but I see that the sky, it wasn't like coming. So I have a parallel node, and then I have a qualifier where I select like the original sky. And if I want here in this shot, like the same look, all I do is like copy. And as you notice, it's not working because that's color. Always you have to make some refinement. So here you can select the two clips, go to the base. I can disable here, go to the base, and here move probably the offset. And here you start like putting your image into the look. So the look will be that, like that flavor part, and you have always like these nodes for adjustment or for recovering one part of the image. And based on that, and based on the node structure, you can grade actually really fast this promo, and you will see it, probably we will upload it with this kind of look, and using both the looks from Magic Bullet and the Resolve like tools inside. And what I love of looks is like it's really fast. I mean, I didn't spend so many times creating this look. It was just like entering, selecting one, just like moving one part, and was all. That was all.
I think
Moritz, did we do enough justice to that workflow, do you think? What do we leave out?
can
What
you
was
show
the question? Sorry.
Can
No,
you
I
show?
was just saying that that's a great example of, you know, like implementing looks into your workflow in Resolve. And I think, you know, from a colorist perspective, that you don't only rely on one tool, right? It's always a combination. I mean, you know, use Film Convert and other tools and plugins and so forth. It's just a larger toolbox, right? And I think, yeah, looks can expand your possibilities in Resolve tremendously.
And
But yeah, it's a beautiful example.
speed up what you got going on. I mean, how many times you have to do like 400 shots in like, you know, 2 hours or something, some ridiculous amount of time.
And the best thing of that is that you can, we will show it before, like if you love so much like this Western style, you can create like a power grade, and this one can be like looks, looks, and you can save this already with the plugin here in your library. So for example, if you need it here, again, let me just like, if you need it in this shot, all you need to do is move here, and that's your look. So you can have it like in your power grade. And this is like a future request for Moritz. It will be great if you have like the same like searching structure in looks in the power grade library. Probably you can talk with Blackmagic because I love this. I love this searching structure. So if you have like similar in the power grades as the one you have in the looks library, it will be great to use this kind of workflow. Like, okay, you have something here, so why not to search it and find it? Because that's one of the most difficult things when you are searching for something, that you spend more time searching than applying it.
Yeah.
Can you show one thing before you hand it off to Max?
Yeah.
Just to talk round tripping. Can you go to the edit page? And then can you turn those the adjustment layers, turn the those full tracks back on, and then go back to the color page? Or even disable one and then just go back to the color page just to show. So now if you look at that clip, now go back to the color page, and you see that they disappear now. So you can, the whole point earlier was that you use them as reference, you're using them on a separate track, but in one button you can turn them all off and you don't see them here. So use them to pull a still from, use them to reference from, save the recipes from them, and then turn off the whole track, and now they're gone, and now you don't see all those duplicates inside of your clips area here.
Yes. At the end, I mean, I will delete everything, but I have an idea of what Tony wanted. And I can like refine it. I can go to another completely point, or I can like start like, I don't know, doing some other new things.
Quick question for you, Diego, from Ro. What are you doing in the trim node? That last one in the sequence.
Yeah, this is, as you notice, let me just come here to my project, this one. I have a really simple node structure, It's loading. So the trim node is the trim that you use when you have to add like one correction. When you feel like, okay, I'm done, but they say to you like, okay, we need a little bit more light in this scene. Or can we reduce the contrast? So that trim node will be that correction for that part. The reason that I'm doing it is, it looks like today is the reason that I'm doing is in this trim node and not in the base is because if I'm doing in the base, it will affect my qualifiers, my look node, it will affect everything. And I have to like remake everything in that node. If I'm doing in the trim node, it will affect this final signal, like the end of the signal, and it will like move just that part. It will not affect any of the nodes. That is like the short question. And the reason that I'm doing a node structure is because I'm lazy. I don't like to name nodes.
Efficient.
I don't like
You're
to create all the time. Yes, I don't like to create all the time parallel, serial. And the other reason is if I go back to this project like 3 months later, I know what I did.
A quick question from Noel about using looks to generate a texture in the color page and then using the Resolve for the grading aspect. And they're thinking about doing a node cache and cross-referencing that with the capabilities of looks to still give real-time playback. I'd like to ask your opinion on that and also get you to weigh in on that, Moritz. The quick answer is that looks uses the GPU, so it'll just piggyback off whatever GPU you've got. But that node cache kind of workflow is an interesting one.
Yeah, it is. So the question is if you can use that. I didn't quite understand the question.
The question is using looks on a node and then grading under it and after it as well to be able to then use that texture or use that feeling, as we've been calling it now, but also how is that going to affect real-time playback?
I mean, I don't know how to give sort of a standardized answer to this because obviously it depends on many things, but generally speaking, I mean, looks is extremely fast, right? I mean, especially considering all the type of tools you can apply within looks, and that's sort of the real benefit of the designer and the modal window and closing it. And once you have it in that beautiful looks wrapper, things usually perform really fast, obviously within reasons. Not sure if that answers the question.
In fact, the correct answer is it depends. So if you're just of course, press your bingo thing.
Put that on one of your shirts.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. The quick answer I would say, Ro, is that if you are just affecting individual pixels with your color grade from looks, then that's super efficient. If you've got multiple blurs or dissolves, diffuses on there, and then you're affecting a range of pixels on, and you've got 8K footage and you've got other things going on, then that's going to affect stuff too. So it's pretty difficult, as Moritz correctly says, to tie down that. But the whole point of Lux 4, when it was early versions of Lux, but Lux 4 really started to take the advantage of the GPU you got on your system. and you've got multiple GPUs that you can talk to from Resolve. So I would say give it a go, throw it on, and you should get pretty decent results.
Yeah, and also, I mean, it depends of everything, of the footage. In this case, Tony recorded with a footage that is the H.265, and we found that this footage is really, really difficult for playback. Really, really difficult. So our timeline right now, I'm in a laptop, and our timeline is RAW and H.265. I'm with the eGPU, but I found that that H.265 is still really, really, really hard for the computer.
Yes.
It's the heavy compression and also how it involves the CPU as well as the GPU.
Yes.
You can always optimize media.
Yeah, but when grading, I mean, it's like you don't trust in the proxies, you don't trust in the optimized, you want like the like the original one.
Cool. So I'm just having a quick look at the clock, and regular viewers won't be surprised that we might slightly overrun on this session. We've not got too much more to go. We're going to hand over to Maxon to show you some of these session settings and some of the workflows inside Premiere, because part of the thing about Lux is that it works in so many different hosts, and you can switch and swap the presets in both Mac and PC. They're binary files, and so they work the same way. And also we had an earlier question about being able to export LUTs from Lux. And so we want to make sure that we have time for a couple of quick questions like that at the end. But shall I hand it over to you now, Max?
Yeah, please. You can do so.
Let's make you a presenter. Here we go.
I'll do it in 1 minute.
Wow.
Whilst we're handing over, excellent question from Avo. When is it good to use a LUT and when not to? So that's another it depends answer.
Exactly.
I would say if you've got a technical LUT and you want to save yourself some, as Diego has been saying, it boring time converting or just separating out the image and so on, then you could use that. If you, a lot of people swear by creative LUTs as well. You get more control if you've got the ability to actually know what the LUT is doing to your footage, which you don't always realize. You can, it's kind of an investigation process you have to go through. And some people prefer curves and do everything from scratch, and some other people prefer the wheels. So the answer to that, I think, is cross-reference to how much time you've got and what the LUT is actually doing to your footage. But that's a good one to open out to the floor as well.
And most of your cameras will allow you to toggle a LUT or import a LUT in. Like I use the Canon LUTs to just toggle on, make sure stuff is exposed, and then toggle it off. So you can use it while you're in the acquisition or while you're shooting as well.
Yep.
Yes. What I will say is don't print in your image.
No, never. Sidecar. The key answer is sidecar. Use it as a monitor LUT and don't use it as a baked in LUT. You'll piss off the colorists.
If it's your workflow, if it's your final image, that's a perfect workflow.
Bake it in the recorder. Don't bake it in the camera.
Yeah.
Alrighty then. Yes. What I'm going to show you here is that what if you don't use Resolve, and what if you just want to stay in your NLE? And Magic Bullet Suite actually allows you to get more latitude in your color grading when you are staying in your NLE. And you probably already seen that it's very visual to see the Resolve nodes, that one node goes from the other node and it impacts the other. But if you understand the stacking in the effect panels, it's not that different. And you can also simulate that using Premiere in this case. And what I'm going to show you here is, like, for example, if you have a look, and what's nice is, like, by using Magic Bullet Looks, it allows you to have a very familiar interface throughout different NLE or app. So yeah. So for example, if you're searching for a look and you kind of like the look of it, so for example this one, and if you for example, drop a colorista after that, or you can also do that inside looks. But what I want to show you is that, you know, you can affect the contrast of the image still after the look has made, or before the look was taken effect. So you can just simply like change the order of stacking, and by using colorista before the look, you are getting like the more signals out of your image, so to say. And it's actually the same principle of grading under the LUT, like Simon already mentioned before. Grading under the LUT is just you know, affecting the adjustment of your image prior to the LUT took place. So for example, here in colorista, if I drop a LUT, let's pick something that's really clipping the image. Right. As you can see, if as I am dropping the LUT, as I am using the LUT, you can already see that it clips the highlight severely. And what's nice here is that although the LUT is shown at the very beginning of the effect chain, it's actually applied right at the back of the effect stack. So for example, if you are dropping the highlights, you can still bring that data back. But if I undo that, so for example, if you are trying to modify that highlights after the LUT, so I have another colorista instance that I used, and the first colorista instance was the LUT. Let's rename it. So, and here, if I try to bring down the highlight, what you can see is that it's bringing down all the clip highlight back. So sometimes, yeah, this is a really nice concept to know. The thing that I want to show you here is that it's really fast to develop looks using Magic Bullet looks. And the looks that I'm going to show you today is not particularly beautiful, but it has many uses, which is the look of, you know, ages, like old time and age back in the day. So for example, if you have if you watch a movie like Kong Skull Island, for example, at the beginning of the movie, you will see a lot of montage of the old clips. That's what, you know, the 50s looks or the 60s looks. And I will not have the time to break down all the 50s until today's looks, but let's just pick something because, you know, I like the 80s, basically because of the music. Let's just pick 80s. So if you watch a lot of MTV music videos a lot back in the day, I'm not trying to date myself.
Vice is the 80s.
For that, what particularly noticeable in that type of looks is the diffusions, you know, the black promise or the warm promise, and we can simulate that very easy in Magic Bullet looks. As you can already see, this is what I came up with that. But let me break that down. So let me just delete everything. What I'm gonna do in Magic Bullet looks is that first I want to play around with the diffusions. And to play around with the diffusions, I can just simply drag and drop the diffusion tools. And instead of messing around with the parameters, I can just choose one of the presets that I like the most. Since I've done this before, I choose the pop hits. And one, it's not really convincing, so I will just stack another diffusions and make it the same. Now we can kind of getting there, but to my taste, it's not enough. So we'll just put another one and put it right in the beginning of the effect chains, and just make it some like warm mist. So I have 3 diffusions filters in my effect chains, and I want to affect my image by using colorista at the end of the chain. So after the diffusions, so I don't want to make my image too contrasty because that's not the look of the 80s. So I will just like drag the shadow slider down a little bit, reduce the highlight, and park the midtones around there, reduce the contrast a little bit, and maybe warm the temperature up a little bit, and also reduce the saturations. And what's nice here, we have saturations by saturations, so you can really target the adjustment, how do you call it? Targeted adjustment in the less saturated area. So I will just bring the saturations in the less saturated areas up a little bit, so it looks a little bit more uniform, and I will reduce the saturations in the shadow. So it looks okay-ish, but what I can do is that I will try to soften the black by using the telecine net. I'm sure by now I am clipping already. Let me check my RGB parade scope, and as you can see, I am over 1. So what I'm gonna do, since I am outputting it into Rec 709 space anyway, I will just use shoulder tool to regulate that, and that's literally what I have here. And I will confirm that, but it looks a little bit too modern still. And what I can do is that I can drag and drop colorista into the effect controls, but I will not do that before looks, because if I'm doing that before looks, I have too much of the signal. I want the signal which is already affected by looks, the limited one. So I can just use colorista, reduce the contrast again, and increase the saturations a little bit. And I will use clarity slider all the way to the left. Not all the way to the left. Just around there. Put the temperature, and then, yeah, reduce the saturations a little bit more. Okay. So I can go back and forth between this colorista and looks, and to my likings, it's a little bit too cold. And what I can do is I can go back to looks, and I can just drop color blend, reduce it a little bit, and something like that. I can play around with the strength slider of looks, maybe around 90. And to make it more vintage, I will add renoiser and just use one of the presets, like 16 millimeters. I can go even further by using universe, for example, but I don't think universe is in our scope of discussions today. But just to show you some
You still
technique.
use it?
Yeah.
Want to see it? You already see it.
Where's it? Misfire, right? Yeah, okay, that's it. What I'm gonna do is I will drop misfire. And there you go. It's pretty much done.
Yeah, nice.
And you can still.
Perfect.
That's
you did
80s.
it so fast. That's the great thing of looks. It's like.
Right. And another looks that I want to break down in this, how do you call it, webinar, is that the other looks that we normally use a lot, especially when we are shooting and then we want to get a nighttime looks, although we don't have any nighttime looks. I think once when I watch, I think I spot this look in one of the current movie, Venom, if I'm not mistaken. There's a one scene where he do a monologue and walking throughout the woods, and apparently in the extra features there was a breakdown of the scene, and it was shot throughout a very bleak evening or afternoon, if even. So it was like still pretty bright, but the way it looks, it was like already looking blue and very desaturated. It looks like night shot. I thought maybe a movie in that caliber will be, you know, shot in the night, but apparently, hey, this looks has its use. So it's really convincing to it's really convinced me to, you know, try to break down the looks. So what I'm gonna do here, what I did here is actually I use Magic Bullet Looks, and the tool that I use mostly is that the tool that soften the image, which is just the diffusions and the telecinenate on its default state. I then balance the image by deactivating the looks, and then I try to balance the image and bringing the cool temperature up by introducing blue in the shadow, introducing blue in the midtones and highlights. And that is by using Colorista. So this is what I have by using looks and Colorista after that, and another Colorista, and then I add a vignette, and that's pretty much it. What I did with the vignette is actually I use a mask and I invert the mask and I desaturate the outer area, and then I reduce the saturations and then make the image look softer by using the clarity slider. That's literally it. So yeah, that's how I get the look.
Nice, that's good.
Also, I like how you are.
Sounded like a robot just now. I didn't get any.
The colorista effects on top of each other.
Yes.
That's a question that often comes up about using colorista. Do you have to do everything in one instance? Can you ever? Okay. Any better now?
Yeah, you just said everything in 1 second.
Can you repeat
Maybe not
what
then.
you said?
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah,
it's an interesting setup for stacking instances of colorista on top of each other. Yep, and also the idea is that they're designed to be stacked, and you might, as a colorist, need to take one element off when you're having discussions with the director or the producer. So it's a nice way of being able to remove one aspect rather than having to change all the settings within one instance of the effect.
Yes,
Cool.
and I would love to say finally is that, I mean, Max can send this look as a preset to Resolve, and in
Yes.
Resolve we can see what he was doing. So it's like one of the main problems we have, like between Resolve and Premiere, is communication. XMLs are not perfect. AAF also, and in color sometimes we have like communicate ideas. So right now, one really great tool to communicate ideas is to send presets from looks in Premiere to looks in Resolve.
And you can do that by pressing this button. Name your presets, choose the folder name, and it will show in the custom looks area. You can then share the file to the next guy working on the same project. Or yeah, that.
And you can put these in an external folder, can't you? You can then put them as an online folder or online accessible, and people can then install them onto their systems from that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one question that came up earlier was, I think, the difference between looks and luts exported from Magic Bullet Looks itself. And because of the nature of looks, because you're affecting, in many cases, more than one pixel at a time, it means that information can't be stored inside a LUT, which only targets individual pixels. So this
doesn't contain secondary corrections, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that one question we had about that is just limitation.
Yeah, and we just implemented that in Colorista 5. So in Colorista, you can export LUTs, but also, I mean, it also it actually tells you when you export what it can export and what it cannot, like things like vignette or blurs, it will not be able to incorporate. But you will be able to export LUTs from Colorista and use them in looks, for instance. So you can do that.
Yeah. Fantastic. Great. Since we are a little over time, let me grab the screen back and I can just remind everyone where they can see the different recordings for all the things that we've been doing. Here we go. So if you want to have more of these sessions coming up, here we go, just whilst this loads up. Please visit the events page on the Maxon website, and here's where you'll see all the other sessions that were coming up, especially in April, where we're jumping into Universe. And if you go to, here we are, YouTube, and search for Maxon Training Team, then you'll be able to see all the different links for the recordings and all the ones from this month. And this recording for today will be up there in about an hour or so. Fantastic. Thank you again, everyone. And as some of the kind questions and comments are coming in the questions area, we appreciate that. Thank you. Also, Noel is very happy that Looks works in Resolve, which is the main tool that they use. So we're going to be testing it out, no doubt. That's great to hear. But I just wanted to say thank you all for this last month. And thank you for sharing that footage, Sony, and thank you for all your Resolve knowledge that you're dropping us on Diego. And thanks for also showing us, Max, those different workflows that are available inside Premiere. Thanks for joining us, Moritz. We might have you back on future sessions like this because you're able to give that extra insight about the development and what the plan has been and why it's useful to do certain workflows. So thank you all, really appreciate it. I didn't introduce myself, sorry. I'm Simon Walker, I'm Director of Training at Maxon. And if you've got any follow-up questions for similar sessions like this, please, I'm the least important one here, absolutely. Please let us know. The training@maxon.net is how you can get hold of us. And we've got plans for future sessions. And if you want to look at something specific or suggest that we cover a certain topic, please let us know. We'd be delighted to hear from you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Nice to see you all.
Appreciate. Thank you, and thanks again for coming along to us, and thanks for the kind comments. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See you on the next one, and don't forget Universe coming up in March.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye.
All right. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.